Shalom. Before I begin, I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Kakadash, and the honor to the apostle, and Elder Millstone, and Shalom to the Agim teaching his word. About the four corners, interest, sincerity. Back on another lesson. Spirit prayer, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Lord, want to be edifying unto the elect. The topic is, going into, before I get into the topic, the true name of God is Yahweh, which means he is or he exists. And the true name of his son, who the world calls Jesus. All right, that's not his name. It's Yahweh Shai, which means he saves or he delivers. All right, and Yahweh will send Yahweh Shai to deliver the elect from the four corners of the earth, because we've been scattered amongst different nations, and to judge the earth for its wickedness, because wickedness and sin has spread like a cancer throughout the four corners of the earth, and Yahweh Shai is going to set up his righteous kingdom by taking Esau Edom out of power. Who is Esau Edom? The so-called white man today, according to the Bible. All right, the topic of this lesson is going into these heathen nations who know who we are, all right, but they will not tell us, all right, and they don't want to tell us, all right, because why would they? All right, they're our enemies, and we are their enemies. All right, we're enemies, just put it frank, all right. It's always been this battle with us Israelites against the heathens, even since David, time of King David. All right, we always been at variance or been against each other. All right, okay, because the Lord has chosen us to be a chosen people, a peculiar people unto himself, to be over these nations. And these nations, they don't like that. Okay, they don't like that. That's why they come up against us, all right, so harshly. And when I say these other nations know who we are, all right, really talking about the elite of these other nations. The average so-called Edomite, the average so-called Moabite, the average so-called Hamite, they're not gonna, they don't know, right? But the elites of them, they know that we are the chosen people, okay? And to prove it, when you go to Revelation, the 11th chapter, I'm going to start at the 8th verse. Okay, it says, "And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt." And those dead bodies are talking about us, not actually dead, but being in a dead state of mind, because we didn't have this wisdom and knowledge that we have today. We didn't know the name Yahweh Shemashah. We didn't know that we were the chosen people. We didn't know that we were Israelites. And that city, that great city, that's called spiritually Sodom and Egypt, they're talking about here in America, all right? And it says spiritually because how the way America conducts itself, the wickedness that goes on here in America, the Momo, the LGBT, shit, the same thing going on in Sodom and Gomorrah, all right, Egypt, all right, because it was bondage, all right, it was bondage there in Egypt. So it's the same thing, nothing new under the sun. It says where also our Lord was crucified. Because as you can see, all right, they done X'd out the ways, all right, of Yahweh Shai, even to the point where they, changed his likeness, even changed his name. All right, now people got calling on Jesus. That name didn't exist when he was born. The letter J just came about. I believe the 1600 it came about. So that is fairly new. And his name is in the Hebrew. So how can his name be, all right, JC, right? When English, the language was even spoken of at that time, it was Hebrew. All right, but continuing on, the 9th verse, it says, "And they of the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see their dead bodies." Slakia. It says, "Shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half. Shall see their bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put into graves." So what is this talking about? All right, talking about these other nations. All right, and that 3 days and a half. Okay. Talking about that 1619 from 1969, where we didn't know who he was, because we was, in hard bondage, being slaves and shit. It says, "Shall not suffer their bodies to be put in graves." Right. All right. They didn't tell us, all right, who we were. All right. And why would they, tell us who we were? All right. Because once we were taken out of power, those heathen nations saw, what's the word I'm looking for? They saw a way for themselves that they can rule and set up their dominion. Okay. It says, and they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them and make merry and shall send gifts one to another. So, like, the gifts talking about slaves, all right, those, dealing with us harshly, treating us as gifts, all right, sending slaves to each other, and they was rejoicing. Because, again, once the Israelites are in power, you see that in the time of King David and the time of Solomon, we was putting belt to ass to these heathens. We was sending garrisons in our land. We was having them as slaves, and etc. So once they seen that we was in that dead state, they was like, this is our time to rule. Okay? It says, because these two prophets, talking about northern and southern kingdom, tormented them that dwell on the earth. All right. So these nations, these Israelites that have been putting hell on us, defeating us, because their God is with them, we have a chance to take them down. All right. Even they've been beating our ass, embarrassing us, taking our women, killing our men. They rejoiced. All right, but as you can see, it says, and after 3 days and a half, the spirit of life from the Most High entered into them and stood upon their feet. And great fear fell upon them which saw them. So after that 350 years from 1619, from 1969, as you seen where in the late 60s, if you didn't see, there was a man called Abba Bivens, all right, which was Elijah, which is also John the Baptist through reincarnation, if you can receive it, because reincarnation is in the Bible, all right? He was on the scene in the late 60s doing a very important role of waking up Israelites to who we truly are. We are the chosen people. We are in another captivity here in America, also called Sodom, also called Egypt in the scriptures, called Babylon in the scriptures, all right? Also called the land of the north in the scriptures. Okay, but now you see, and it says they stood upon their feet, and great fear fell upon them which saw them. So, talking about those nations, fear. All right, they're scared now because these nations, or this nation of Israel, which are the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans, is not those so-called, them people that call themselves Jews today with them small hats. All right, those are not the people, but we are, because the curses match us. All right, when you read Deuteronomy 28. The curses match our people. So fear fell upon them because they see that, we're coming back into this wisdom and knowledge. Because the reason I was taken down, number one, because we went off. And once we were taken down, we forgot who we were. And if you forget who you are, you're basically losing your power. You don't know who your forefathers are. You don't know the name. You don't know the source. You don't know Yahweh Shem Al Shai. All right, now we do. And now you see there's a shift in the earth. Okay, you see there's a great shift in the earth. That's why you see, all right, the condition of the people is failing. These nations are, coming against each other. That's why life is getting harder to live, because there's about to be a change in the earth where us as a nation, we're going to be set on top. All right. This is 2 Ezra 6 and start at 7. It says, then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? And it says, when shall be the end of the first, and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were first born of him, Jacob's hand held first the head of Esau. And that was very symbolic, all right, in Genesis, of why Jacob did that. It was symbolic of us taking him out of his rulership. And we're living in those times now. Okay? Just watch, you got to be a watchman. It's like you got to be circumspect to what's going on. All right. It says, for Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. And Esau, as I said earlier in the lesson, Esau, all right, represents, the so-called white man today. All right, he's in rulership. Okay, when it says he's the end of the world, that means he's the end of his age, the end of his time ruling. And after that is going to be Jacob, all right, us, because we represent Jacob, all right, because Jacob's name was changed to Israel, all right. We're next after. Hence, the beginning. We're going to begin or resume our rulership. All right? We're going to have the heathens under subjection. And that's another reason why they didn't tell us who we were. Because they're going to be our slaves in the kingdom. They're going to be servants and handmaids. When you go to Isaiah 14 and 1, it says, for the Lord Yahweh will have mercy on Jacob. There you go again. Jacob representing Israel. And it says, for the Lord Yahweh will have mercy. So the Lord will have mercy on us. And we yet choose Israel and set them in their own land. And the strangers shall be joined unto them. Joined with them, Salakia, shall be joined with them. And they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And these strangers are not talking about, right, the heathens. It's talking about Jake that's been scattered amongst different nations throughout the four corners of the earth. But as you can see now, we're coming together, all right, calling ourselves Israelites. It says, and the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord Yahweh for servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, right? Because we're in captivity under these heathens, namely Esau, Edom, because even all these other nations are over us, essentially, and they shall rule over the oppressors. All right, and it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord Yahweh shall give thee rest from thy sorrow, and from thy fear, and from thy hard bondage wherein thou was made to serve. So, we're gonna rule over our oppressors, because Esau is the number one oppressor, but these other nations had a hand in it as well. All right, don't say that we're crazy. We don't know what you're talking about. No, bro. All right, when you go to Psalms 83. It says, a song or psalm of Asaph, keep not thou silence, O power, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O power. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come and let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more remembrance. They have consulted together with one consent. They all came together for one plan. All right, to come against who? The Israelites. All right, they are confederate against thee. And 6-11 talks about these nations. It says the tabernacle of Edom, and the Ishmaelites of Moab, and Hagarians, Gabal, and Ammon, Amalek, the Philistines with the inhabitants of Tyre, Asher, Salakia. Also, is joined with them. They have Hopin, the children of Lot, Salah. So these different nations, starting with Esau, Edom, all right, the so-called Arab man, the so-called Chinese person. He's got them so-called, the Edomites as well, but Amalek, them so-called Jews, okay, have come together to set this to continue to oppress us. That's the word I'm looking for. All right, but now we come into this knowledge. They're fearful because, as I read in Isaiah 14, we're going to rule over our oppressors. That's their greatest fear, to have the so-called black man, Latino, Native American man to be over them. Once again, because they know the history of how it was, and they don't want that to happen. That's why he wants to set up his new world order. Okay? With that little one, this quick lesson was edifying. I want to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, and double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to the Akim teaching his word throughout the four corners, and with sincerity, Akim was out of here. Shalom.